Hey guys, it's Matt. If you could just stick with me here for 2 minutes before I start the first conversation before a failed life. It was originally presented 3.5 or 4 years ago, I believe, via the YouTube reading of the book. This chapter, as well as the last conversation before you were born, was removed from YouTube a long time ago. As you know, what was it, 4, 5, 6 months ago? I have no idea. Time is such a blur. I represented the last conversation before you were born, which was very much in line with my belief set. Not entirely. What's coming up here is complete fiction. I just want to say a few things about that before I start it. First off, thanks to Jay for making this great rubber ducky painting. He's got the magenta, the emerald green, and the Clinton knot milk in the mirror. I'm sure we'll be using this again several times in the future. Thanks very much, Jay. I didn't know what to put over this thing, the last or the first conversation after a failed life, so this is as good as any. What's coming is fiction. It is not my belief set. I don't believe there's a life review with a demon or your spiritual master sends you off to learn from a demon. It's all fiction coming, unlike the last conversation before you incarnated was close to my belief set. This is pure fiction, guys. And the message is very clear. The people that say, we come in here with a mind wipe, how can we be expected to know what to do? How can we know what to do to succeed? The clues that reality gives us are all over the place. And this presentation emphasizes that. But you'll hear things that will trigger a lot of people, like the life test, or you failed in life, you didn't pass the test. There's an archon or a demon that comes in. And even with this preface, people will still be like, Matt thinks there's an archonic review by a demon after. They won't even listen to this part, so be it. It's fiction. It makes the point when you're done listening for the hour that, you know what? This reality gives itself away every day. And that tells you about yourself, and it tells you about what you should be using life for and what you should be doing. There are thousands or tens of thousands of clues we are getting in life. And you'll see the failed soul that didn't pass the life test. He's a complainer. How could I have been expected to pass? It's fiction, guys. Let me say it one more time. Well, it doesn't matter. Someone will be out. Matt believes there's an archonic review from a demon when you die. No, I don't. The message, hopefully, if I did this correctly, will be clear. Okay? The reality gives itself away. Thanks for listening. And if there's any problems with the recording, I didn't get a chance to review it. I just spent too many hours on this. I just have to get it out. If there's a problem or there's 4 different voices or 2 voices go on top of each other, I'll fix it and I'll re-release it. I think everything's fine and fixed or correct, but I didn't review it. I just can't spend another hour on it. I'd rather get it out than I can't even speak properly in this part. But my mind's mush. I'm just going to start the damn thing. just take it as fiction and understand the basic lessons that I'm trying to get out. I can't even talk. Might as well start the damn thing. I'll be back on YouTube. Or actually, it'll be, I don't know. I mean, I'm so gone from spending so much time on this. I'm going to try to do a free voice video tomorrow, but it'll have to be something fun.
We had great hope for you when we agreed to your request for incarnation on Earth, but I regret to inform you, you failed.
The environment around you is sterile and warm, with a strange white glow. The room is a sampling of familiarity, but overall, a poor attempt to replicate all that was commonplace back on Earth. There are strange differences in your body. You can't place where you are or why you don't feel like you. The chronic pain in your shoulder is mysteriously gone. You raise your arm up over your head easily in amazement with a full range of motion. The place where you are now lacks a bit of gravity. The shoulder injury had plagued you for decades after the motorcycle accident. Even more amazingly, a burden's been lifted off your back. A general stress and anxiety that has been with you for so long has disappeared. Gone is the baggage that goes along with constant worrying about the future and never letting go of the past. You suddenly realize what has occurred and gasp for breath that's no longer needed in this place. There are no lungs to fill, and the ether around you is not of oxygen. A clarity is growing in your consciousness, making the memories of Earth seem a bit foggy, like last night's dream after a morning shower. What is happening to you is like waking up from sleep in the morning, but with 1,000 times more clarity.
Oh man, I'm dead. All of that? On Earth? Was some kind of dream? My life of 83 years? Holy crap, what just happened? Where am I?
There's something sitting across from you, and you desperately look to it for answers. It looks human, but for some reason, it wouldn't fit in on the Earth that you just came from. Everything around you seems like a poor attempt to mimic the life you left behind. The entity speaks as if it can read your mind.
It was not 83 years as you know it. Earth time does not exist here. You were here with me just a moment ago. Years are only a side effect of moving through the realm that you just came from. And it was not 83 years from the perspective of Earth. It was 15,204 years. Think back. Can you see them? Can you see all of them?
All of what?
Your lifetimes, of course.
Your head drops down as you divert your eyes away from the figure who is becoming more familiar to you. He is right. You now remember every moment from 15 millennia, your births, what came before each. You also remember the conversation you had with this same entity that was both 15,000 years ago and 5 seconds ago, depending on one's perspective.
Are you beginning to recollect the conversation we had before you chose to incarnate?
Yes, I remember. I can now recall everything. But did I hear you say I failed?
I alone am not your judge, but what is your assessment?
Somehow I realized that I failed. But I don't know the standards or metrics upon which I base my determination. All my lifetimes, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I don't know how I know this. I just do.
In this place here with me, you have what is called a knowing. It will take some time before you shed the limitations of the form that you carried on Earth.
You become angry, still carrying the emotion of 15,000 years. What else was I expected to do down there in the lives that I lived and what I did? A spirit doesn't have a chance down there. I was birthed with only the understanding of how to suckle from milk and breathe the air. You can see that once a human avatar becomes self-aware, you enter a massive system of lies. I can clearly see all of it now for what it was. There you're blinded to it. Each era, each lifetime had a different type of deception, and thousands of minions which executed a series of tricks that played out during the course of each lifetime. I was a sharecropper. No, I was a soldier. I was a prostitute. I was a judge. I was 100 other things trained to fit the mold of the time period of my incarnation.
There was a simple way to pass the trial of Earth. Any of these deceptions across any lifetime, what you just called tricks, could be overcome by becoming lucid and aware of the trick and aware of your true nature while the Earth experience was happening, which, as you can understand, was nothing more than an elaborate fantasy. Those who, what you would call past the Earth incarnation, saw the realm for what it was, discovering their true nature while inside its Maya. Those who realize it's a manufactured construct while alive have the best chance of understanding why they incarnated so they can do what they're supposed to do there. Only now can you see what everything there was for, yet while on Earth you behaved in the opposite way, giving stock and credence to everything the Wardens of the realm put in front of you. You breathed life into their systems every day. I can see how much of your energy they ingested over the millennia. Some souls are indifferent, but you actually approved of the Wardens in both action and deed. Words are irrelevant, and intentions in that realm are meaningless unless acted upon. Your thoughts were constantly on your past and the future, when the universal truth could only be found in what you called there the now.
Listening with wide eyes, you have no reply, for everything you're being told you sense is correct.
I can read your thoughts. You are struggling with how you could have realized the nature of the earthly trick while you were actually living inside of it. Was it so difficult to see the trick and then use the knowledge to do what you needed to do there for yourself? Did you even have a single lifetime where you lived close to what was intended? I did question the way many things were run on Earth. I had many complaints about the government or about my king. I even remember once taking up rebellion. Your earthly habits still infect you. You can no more deceive me than deceive yourself, for you have forgotten we are part of the same thing. Complaining and excuse-making is exactly the emotion that Earth's systems are there to elicit from you. Yes, you did question the surface-level fraud, the way someone there would complain about taxes, but the trick of the realm's warden is multi-layered. It requires work and a desire to see all levels and how they form a synergistic whole. Ultimately, it's not about fighting back. The minions are a reflection of what the souls there give them. Any negative action toward them makes them more powerful. Any fighting and complaining is the harvesting of energy. They desire to be hated. They want you to attack. Energy inside its dome cannot be created nor destroyed, and the creatures there can't manufacture it on their own. So where do you think they get their energy and sustenance? Where do you think the energy you put into protesting and marching and rebellion went? Right into the Wardens themselves. It was a simple energy transfer, the way the place was constructed from its first day. Thinking the negative energy you were putting in would somehow destroy the system that feeds from the exact frequency being put in is not logical.
Here in this place, somehow I know you're right. It's clear to me now. That thinking that I had on Earth was absurd, but while there, I was blind to all of it. If I could have taken just a bit of what I know now and remember here with you, and I would have lived a completely different life in a different way. It just seems so unfair.
No one can go into that place with an understanding of what they truly are. It would make the entire process pointless. At least for a time, the false self must be believed in, and at least for a time, mistakes must be made. It was all about creating something that cannot be simulated here with us. Earth was about fostering the part of you the Warden successfully hid from you for 15,000 years. Spiritual fast track is not possible in a state of participation and agreement with earthly policies and systems. I admit some lifetimes were more difficult than others. What chance does the sharecropper have with constant worry about survival to see through the nature of the illusion? Nevertheless, it was possible. Some have done it. You see, at any time in your life, where you stood in the earthly test was shown to you while in life. Most don't notice.
What do you mean? How can that possibly be?
In a lifetime, were you successful by their metrics and by their standards?
What? Yes, I was successful in many lifetimes. I strived to be as successful as I could. Everybody there does.
Yes, exactly. Most there live their lives to serve the system itself and to serve its nature and not their own true nature. For example, if the realm honored you with awards, praise, and accolades, that acts as a spiritual gauge, but an inverted one, of course. If you were highly successful per their standards and metrics, the metrics of the 666 system itself, that is synonymous with spiritual failure. For spiritual is the inverse of the materialism that it presents. They handed you a map and a compass, and if you followed their directions, one constructed their own prison in that place. A key to the city is a shovel to a grave. The more the Matrix praised and stroked your ego, telling you how successful you were, the more you were giving away pieces of yourself, which they consumed as energy. Seeing that everything in that realm is an inversion is one of the first things real spirits begin to notice. Their systems are not perfect. In general, it gives itself away to anyone willing to put down the map and compass that has been handed to them and look up and finally notice the nature of their predicament.
Look, I just lived it. I don't know how to say it. It was too difficult to swim against the tide there. I sensed descent was a lonely path, and I had many friends. I had many associates. I had large families in many lifetimes. I had jobs managing people.
You say I failed. I believe I failed. I don't know why I'm saying this because it doesn't make sense to me. But what could I have reasonably been expected to understand while living these lifetimes? And then what could I reasonably have been expected to do about it inside such a massive system where everybody is walking in the exact same direction? I had responsibilities. I had children in 1,000 lifetimes. Everyone around me believed in all of it too. Reasonableness has nothing to do with it. Applying earthly standards to matters of spirit is the most common mistake. Hiding behind the responsibilities of family is also a common excuse. Providing for this family and walking the true path are not mutually exclusive.
But I just lived those lives and you did not. I say it was not a fair test. How many souls could possibly pass something so difficult when we are blind to its nature from birth? And those we trust, the people around us, people like our parents, are actually there to reinforce the lie from our very first step.
You are not alone in your struggle. Many other souls had been placed there on earth. It was possible for those on the correct path to find each other there. Recently, things became bleak. Only a few real souls were avoiding the path of failure. The ancient evil there, the Wardens of the realm, began taking too much for themselves, literally feeding off the immortal nature of soul stuff in quantities not anticipated by us when the realm was first created. In one way, you should be appreciative of the fact that you didn't lose your entire essence to its abyss. You have heard of the legend of the black hole there? There is no giant gravity well in space. The term black hole is a term the realm uses to describe itself and its intentions for real souls. They do love their as above, so below games. The Wardens have found innovative ways to trick most souls on earth, to offer up their divine selves willingly to be fed upon century after century. The minions perfected this trick. When they acquired a certain degree of technology in what you call the 20th century, the situation turned dire for the souls who remained on earth.
What do you mean remaining souls? I'm here with you now. Why aren't the others here with me?
Millions of real souls had been degraded below a certain threshold. With no soul stuff left, one becomes essentially a golem of the realm, and they begin to serve the realm itself. Some people you interacted with on earth were once like you, but their spirit was lost to what they called the black hole. Below a certain level of degradation, there is no resuscitation. They can never leave the realm. They have no essence upon which to attempt to exit through the membrane at death. Created golems of earth may one day become minions who serve the Wardens for as long as earth shall exist. The situation for remaining souls was dire. The elders convened to give all that were like you whatever assistance they could because the Wardens had overstepped the parameters of the original contract.
These evil creatures you speak of, how long have they been operating on Earth?
In terms you can understand, over 240,000 years.
250,000 years? What? All of us there were told that civilization itself only dates back about 5,000 years, or roughly 90 lifetimes consecutively.
And why would you believe that? Because that is what a book told you, or a teacher said, all with good intention, but drawing their information from the original lie itself. Think of that. The lie had to be told only once, as long as it was passed along properly, without question. And what did they say came before this civilization that only dated back 5,000 years? What did they say preceded it?
It's embarrassing, for I can see what it is. They actually told us that we came from different forms of ape creatures, and before that, we came from simple mammals and bacteria.
And that is what you believed were your ancestors because you were told this?
Yes, almost everyone down there believes it.
Incredible. How absurd. And we here wonder about our dropping failure to success rate. As was explained to you before your incarnation, the Warden's role there is spiritual degradation. If they can bind a soul to the realm, they're permitted to keep it. The realm acts like a filter. Unfit aspects of creation are forever trapped. destined to one day be destroyed, or worse, become a minion of the realm itself. Those who can pass through the membrane at death will have proven to be pure aspects of creation and are welcomed back home. As you witnessed in their goal to spiritually destroy, the minions are astoundingly adept. The population of the realm grew to numbers we believed were not possible because very few were leaving, very few were getting out. The number of people on Earth can only grow if few are able to pass through the membrane. Wardens were recruiting more minions and making golems at a rate that was unforeseen by even the most ancient of us. The population on Earth climbed to over 7 billion, mostly golems, with no inner light left.
Yes, it seems the minions that you call them perfected something called self-replication, like Agent Smith.
Like who? What was that?
Sorry, it was just an earthly reference. The spirit guide was in no way distracted and simply continued.
Our monitors watched the Wardens of Earth become arrogant beyond measure. They began to craft media and art as odes to themselves and tributes to their accomplishments. The irony is, the living souls paid currency via their energy and breathed life into the Warden's own trophies. Up until a moment ago, there were only a few 100,000 divine souls left on Earth. Those who reside there now, who you call people, are neither real nor foe. There's something in between the real spirit realm and the netherworld. True, they fully exist inside the earth realm, but no longer have ties outside of it. The bodies there are not illusory projections, but were once real souls who the ancient Wardens, fulfilling their contract with unexpected acumen, degraded to a level that forever bound them to the earth realm, what I referred to earlier as golems.
What? In life, I always believed everybody around me was exactly the same as I am. I never even thought about it. This is what we're all taught as children. We're all the same.
Of course, in a place with so many different types of beings, from real spirits to demonic wardens, golems, and minions in between, a first-level trick would be to convince real souls that everybody there is the same. A belief in it instantly lowers you to the bottom common denominator. You have heard these sayings, all men are created equal. You've heard other sayings like that. This is true. But what is man? By their definition, all men are created equal. What is the true definition of man? Souls should have strived to be something more instead of lowering themselves to equal. What you know of as these Academy Awards, or what you know of as Oscars, it's a collection of minions and wardens in the same room being served by golems, once real spiritual beings. Someday I will share with you who Oscar really is. They fed you absurd stories about the golden statue looking like someone's uncle, and the people believed it. It is the minions' greatest game, equality, and making real spiritual beings believe they're the same as the Wardens are. It would certainly feed them energy if souls were convinced they were equal to the lower entities, but it is worse than that. The real souls began to covet the Wardens and the minions, at least the ones presenting themselves as celebrity. The real souls assigned themselves a position of inferiority to these creatures. Now, when this began to happen, it was inconceivable to us. The old days of golden crowns, royalty, the parading of gems in front of the proletariat and the great unwashed, that was replaced in the modern era with the worship of celebrity, with the movie star or the rock star. We had selected wardens who became too good at their job. Returning to your Academy Awards, the minions and wardens are inside, and the real souls of creation are outside, standing behind ropes and yellow tape, waiting to take pictures of these lowly creatures. Their symbol is a golden idol with the obvious truth in plain sight. The amount of soul stuff the Earth's Hollywood has drawn from souls since the demons introduced this technology has truly been remarkable to us. Inside bodies, inside avatars, inside the flesh, walking the earth are many different types of beings and incarnations. You would only know if you could see their aura or their subtle light body, which you cannot see while alive. The Wardens play their role to sustain themselves, but their role also serves real spirits, or the few who learn what to do for themselves by observing what they do and taking the opposite path to find their way back home. The Wardens aren't immortal. Saying their existence is temporary is technically accurate, but also inappropriate. The Wardens and their minions survive only as long as the realm exists. Their immortality is tied to Earth, and the Earth's existence is finite. Feeding on soul stuff is the sustenance that animates them, and this was agreed to contractually by us. Technically, they are not doing anything wrong. This is how the realm was designed from the start. It was not meant to be easy for real souls to incarnate. The adversary placed there had to be formidable.
What? You're kidding. I thought everybody was the same, and some people just took the path of greed. So what I know of, for example, is Hillary Clinton has been on Earth in some form since its inception and had other incarnations, and she's actually aware of her past lives?
I am not aware of a creature by that name, but who knows what it may be calling itself today. However, I sense the type of entity you're referring to. Yes, a graduated minion of that level is usually a warden of Earth and sometimes becomes a demon, the highest level, fully aware of the ancient knowledge from the realm's day of inception.
So Hillary could have been Napoleon or Xerxes of Persia?
Those names I do know. A being like that could have been both. If this Hillary is the same, the entity you refer to we know quite well, and its original designation was someone even you have heard of, Vlad the Impaler.
Hillary was Dracula?
It is possible. It is likely the same thing. There are only so many wardens of a certain level. They take on various names over the centuries. The true demons, though, remain in the shadows. The ones at the highest level never appear in front of camera.
I'm not surprised. Bill, I guess, was her witch's familiar.
Explain.
It's nothing, Master. However, if I failed, what am I doing back here now? What happened? If they had taken all they wanted from me, I would still be there, having become a golem myself, aspiring to one day maybe work for the Wardens as a minion like Anderson Cooper does.
That is highly perceptive. Why you are here now is the appropriate question. You see, to your good fortune, the realm was prematurely locked down. Closed for business is an earthly term you would understand. The 400,000-page contract with the Wardens, we had been going over it for a century, and we had our minions paying even closer attention to what was going on at Earth because we felt they had overstepped severely. We had caught Wardens in several contractual violations. They had been experimenting on the fabric of time and space, the physics of the realm itself. They had moved well beyond their age-old bag of tricks into technologies that can only be considered devices to control minds, violating free will and free thought. The souls lost over the millennia who had become golems could not be saved as you were. Many are a permanent part of the 666 realm for as long as it shall exist. Others went completely dark. They were extinguished into the abyss or the black hole. You and the souls left were taken out of the earth realm in the same instant. Nevertheless, up to this point, you had not technically failed because your test had not found its terminus through death, and I can see your light has not been completely extinguished, although a large portion of it is gone. We witnessed them feed from your divine energy for centuries. You sit here before us as only a fraction of what you once were, yet the divine aspect still exists in you, and that is our dilemma. It can be rehabilitated to what it once was before you incarnated to Earth. On earth, it was not just intended to grow, it was intended to fundamentally transform.
Then what will happen to all the people still living on earth, those that had given the entirety of themselves away, who were once real spirits? What happens to them?
You must choose another term. No golem left there at this time is truly living, as the few real souls left were removed, as you were, when the realm was locked down. On that plane, they are bodies trying to influence an ego mind, and they are an ego mind trying to have experiences through the body. The ego seeks pleasure for the body and rewards itself through the achievements of its own avatar. When it has few left, it inebriates and drugs itself. The realm is locked down from a real soul's perspective, but it will not be destroyed. The golems who remain, many who were once real beings of spirit, will play out what they think is a normal lifetime, going through the motions society dictates to them. However, when the death of their avatar comes, they will, at that time, cease to exist. Unlike you, to them, the body is not just a vehicle. The body is all they ever will be at this point going forward. What's left on earth now is the atheism that realm made manifest. Even most of the Wardens are still unaware of this lockdown. The ancient evil won't share the information with the lesser demons and the minions. The ancient council of Wardens don't know how to reveal the nature of their predicament to the lower levels in government or in Hollywood and still maintain control. The middle levels, like the one you call George Bush, for example, now find it impossible to feed in the same manner, and they don't understand what the problem is. The real souls are gone. Their hunger then is never satiated, because there are no real souls left. They will soon turn on themselves like men in lifeboats drinking seawater.
All around, this is not the best of news. What happens to me now, Master?
In terms you can understand, the existing systems on Earth were expected to last for another 5,000 years. This contingency was sudden and unforeseen. I was not part of the decision, but simply informed a few moments before you came back. A failed soul that has been removed from the realm in this manner prematurely, this has never taken place before and is unprecedented. The good news for you is you have not failed technically. You have not failed by definition per how the realm of Earth was designed. You had several decades of your remaining life left, but to be honest, what did you expect would happen in the little time that you had left when you had not succeeded in any way in the prior 15,000 years? Consider yourself lucky these Wardens breached the contract. However, your training must continue, but not in the way you remember. You are a lower version of what left here. I can tell you this: your path will be more difficult than any other in the history of all creation. Those who monitored the earth for us, who discovered the violations of the contract, believe you should be cast into the abyss, for it's clear to them you are on a direct path to failure. Fortunately for you, the elders disagreed. Your complete transformation into a golem was not allowed to happen because of the circumstances I described. We have no choice for what we must do for the group of you in this strange predicament. You must learn the earthly lessons intended, but in another place. As I said, the earth realm is locked down to any real souls that remained.
Who will I study from now, if not you, Master?
As an emergency measure, 36 chambers were recently constructed. Since this situation is new and unexpected, only the first level is complete. The chamber is overseen by an entity that was once a warden over Earth. It's an offspring of one of the original demons. She would very much like to meet you, and I hand you over to her now.
No, Master. Wait a second. No, please. I have more questions. Don't lead me to this thing.
I am sorry, but you won't be in a position to request anything for a very, very long time. From my perspective, I'll see you back here in a few moments. From yours, maybe 1,000 years. Not just with her. We're building the other 35 chambers now. She is simply your first teacher.
And with that, the ancient master of light started to fade away. A moment later, the scenery changed. Looking down, your body now seems a bit less human than it did, like a memory fading away. Your sensory perception is also changing, now perceiving the environment from a third-person perspective and less like someone looking out through human eyes, but both occurring at the same time. The foundation elements of the earthly realm must be washed away slowly for a spirit removed so suddenly. A new environment envelops you. The scene is a morgue from an ancient war with an unnatural amount of cadavers spread about. You think such a horrible sight a strange choice for your first few lessons with the new teacher, but this is not Earth. It must be some kind of strange limbo connecting the lower worlds, what Dante wrote about that was painted over as hell by the Catholic Church. Looking around, fields of dead bodies radiate out in all directions, a warehouse of death so large that flocks of birds could easily fly under its canopy. Close by, an old woman works, cutting a body from neck to belly. Strangely, there is no one else in this massive place. There are no windows and no sources of artificial light. Just a purplish-red hue engulfs everything. You approach timidly, with full trust in your master that you were sent to this particular place for a reason. You walk forth. The ancient entity senses your presence. With her back to you, the woman commands you to come here. She pays you no mind and continues to work on the body that is in front of her, one that is mostly exposed to your view and severely mutilated. Her countenance is arrogant, flippant, and rude. She is both old and young, depending on the wavelength of the light that reflects back into what should be your eyes, but no longer are.
What do you know about me?
She has still not looked up at you and continues to perform her work.
Only that you were one of the original Wardens of Earth. My master sent me here to learn from you.
That is correct. I am Zethofides, but you may know me by my earthly names, Rasputin, Mengele, Caligula, and many others. A chill descends down what should have been your spine. Earthly emotions and sensations are still part of this place at the behest of the instructor. Oh yes, you will learn your lessons here with me, fortunate soul, or you will help me with these bodies for longer than the lower realms will exist. I understand you just wasted 15,000 years on Earth. You must sense there is no more room for any more of your mistakes.
Yes, ma'am.
You're a complainer, I know. You still can't fathom how many others before you actually passed the earthly trial if they were all like you. Considering the help you were given recently, do you know how pathetic you are? Beginning to remember who you were in spirit form after leaving the earth behind, you're taken aback by such a comment, not expecting anything outside of the earth realm to express such a caustic and loathsome countenance. You consider that this was the sort of entity that taught the people of Earth how to behave and what is to be coveted. You remind yourself that this is an original warden, a demon of the 666 realm. You assume her true state is something much more horrifying than that of a slender woman with bloody hands. As you look around, it seems that this place is something the elders constructed between the earth and spirit realm, a netherworld of sorts, so this being can exist in order to conduct the work she was assigned. You appear to be her first pupil of the souls who were removed from Earth. Then you remember, for this place brings a certain level of knowing you lost while incarnating on Earth. You realize this demon may be teaching all souls separately, but at the same time, generating multiple aspects of itself in this place, even thousands. You are confident your master and others have sealed this place off with care, for they can't afford a monster like this infecting the divine realms above. Whatever it will teach you, it is performing this task simply to ensure its own survival. It cares not for you, nor will it ever grow fond over time, as most teachers do to their pupils. You decide to push back a bit to get a sense as to what sort of thing you're dealing with here. For the very first time, you're getting an understanding of who you really are and the power at least you once possessed.
You say we were given help, ma'am? What help was I given?
Her head rises in an unnatural way, with the head not in sync with the neck, looking at you for the very first time. It stares for many seconds and says nothing. You look away from its eyes because there is something there that pulls you in. Your head drops in submission. It is your master in this place.
Of course I know why you were just deposited here. If you had found me by accident, the rest of your existence would be quite unbearable, little soul. Fortunately for you, I can't be the mentor they want me to be if you're being tortured all day. If I am not successful in this endeavor, I will cease to exist. I was there on the day when the earthly plane was completed, the ribbon cutting, if you will. But my ilk celebrated in ways you would not care to know about as we waited for souls like you to be deposited on earth.
She laughs, thinking of perverse things that you are grateful she is keeping to herself.
We had been ripped from our home plane, defeated by your masters. Our mother had her hands tied when she made the agreement to become the Wardens of Earth. But when we arrived on Earth, we could not believe what was before us. It was no work detail. It was no cage. It was a playground we could run roughshod over. When it was explained to us, our very role was to corrupt. We could not believe it. We reviewed the contract again and again, not believing what we were reading. We were being placed on Earth for what was in our very nature to do, like punishing a mosquito by asking it to live in a nudist colony.
And with that she laughed, as if she had not laughed for a very long time.
This does not mean you could not have had a successful incarnation. Pathetic little spirit, the help you received, you obviously missed. And the help you received started from day one. My brethren quickly grew out of control, giving you every opportunity to see through the illusion. Early on, we knew we had this game beat if my brothers would not have violated the contract so severely. Such malcontents they were. They could not control themselves. Still now on earth, they live out the end of their existence. You inhabiting souls were all fools from the very start. You were given a sign and wonder that we thought was the one thing that placed the game in your favor. Can you imagine that? Unfair for us in that environment. With all the talk today of how we have overstepped and hijacked the earth, we're called a scourge for simply doing what we were told to do by your masters. Those incarnating played a game that was, at least originally, clearly stacked against us from the perspective of any soul with even a degree of intelligence. So your complaining is absurd to me. What kind of creature would be so dumb, so pathetically stupid, that they could look upon what is called the eclipse of the sun and think the place that they were in was real? The sun even looks like you're staring into a projector. And what a coincidence that every so many years, the cap fits perfectly on top with exact precision. When it was proposed that we will trick the people by saying it's a rock flying in front of what you call the sun, I remember laughing uncontrollably. They were right. People were that stupid. I had been removed from the masses and only remember the original souls. I was not aware how far my brethren had led the masses toward what you would call dumb.
Are you saying that all I needed to break the illusion was to recognize the nature of the solar eclipse?
Oh my. Let me call your master right now. We have a genius on our hands here. Shut up and let me continue. All this background is part of your training. Our trick was to make real souls there believe that all they are is the 3D existence. All they ever will be is the 3D existence via the ego and the body. Seeing reality itself as, quote, not real or impossible the way it's presented allows the mind to reconfigure and move beyond the limiting senses. When the earth was young, many souls observed the eclipse and, using the wonder for what it was designed for, applied lessons across other aspects of their lives as they moved through reality. They formed conclusions and eventually saw the true nature of the earth realm, an illusory, temporary incarnation. These souls escaped from us to be reunited with spirit. But we learned quickly, and we refined our techniques, for our survival was linked to the realm functioning in this manner. We were forced by your masters to work this job, and we overcame to make it our playground. For thousands of years, souls provided us just enough sustenance to live and to thrive, but there was no excess to feed our insatiable appetite in those days. Many escaped us in the old days, and they passed back through the filter where we may not pass, having won their little earthly trial. This balance they speak of was being maintained per its original blueprints, but my brethren were not interested in balance. I warned them not to overstep. We will never be given another playground like this, I said to them. My species feeds on soul energy, and collectively we are insatiable. Many of us refine techniques to destroy the balance. I never partook in this, thus the reason I am here with you today. Everything changed for us at the time when a lower minion, one called Copernicus, followed by Galileo, two slobbering servants, played their famous roles for us. What happened next forever destroyed the balance. The eclipse has always been the catalyst for living souls to realize their predicament on earth and cast aside the physical for the spiritual. A new understanding allows souls to eventually beat our game by rejecting us. Then, seemingly, overnight, instead of looking at the eclipse as a sign and wonder, and what should be a glimpse into the true nature of reality, we had convinced you fools that the eclipse was simply a ball of rock flying in front of burning gas. And because of children's stories about size and distance, the people believed the ruse. Like I said, I couldn't believe how easy it was. We convinced fools like you it only appeared like each celestial was the same size, one fitting perfectly over the other. We told the sweetmeats one object was 400 times larger, even though with their own eyes they looked up and saw them as the exact same size. I couldn't believe souls on earth were falling for it. The warden that devised this scheme is a rather pathetic creature of minimal intelligence. But it took stupidity, in this case, to propose genius, because it was able to think like the dumbest incarnate of all time, souls parading around as, quote, man. There was a breakthrough on that day that turned everything in our favor in terms of the energy that could be harnessed and sucked. Incarnating souls were adept at noticing small deceptions. We learned that if the lie is both massive and absurd at the same time, somehow it falls outside the bookends of human perception. A thief steals an old woman's purse. An entire town rallies together and pursues the thief and hangs him in judgment. Have the mayor of the city walk right out of the treasury with 2 humongous bags of gold in each arm, and the dummies will think he's on official business. A thief breaks into a house to steal music discs worth $40 and gets shot by the proprietor and owner of the home. Same people that would object to that scenario give $40,000 a year in taxes to various governments who have just done essentially the same exact thing, stolen it, offering nothing in return. And then the people, through voting, asked for more of it. Certain revelations about the nature of a soul and a body was like handing us a magic key. As people believed in our propaganda, the realm itself started to change. Yes, even physically. And the math on paper matched up over time to what we were presenting and what people were told, thanks to that eunuch, Sir Isaac Newton, who put the finishing touches on our math. If real souls could have known what they were capable of, we put it out to them, and through their own creation, they reflected back what we desired. In the beginning, we had no idea we could use real souls collectively to build out what we wanted. We then gained the technology to put forth space propaganda in movies and on television. We were so eager to roll it out that we started even before the invention of the television via the radio broadcasts War of the Worlds and The Day the Earth Stood Still. We created an entire story of what everything in the heavens was, and all of it was a lie. We had finally gained an upper hand, never to be relinquished again. Do you understand what we were?
Yes, I do now, ma'am.
Well, why do you understand then?
The Demon Queen asked the question knowing exactly what answer was coming, actually showing delight for being able to predict it and awaiting the pleasure of hearing the response. Because I believed in it. For my entire existence on earth, I believed in all of it. She looks up from her cadaver before you could finish your words and shrieks with piercing laughter. Your eyes, already looking away, look straight down as hers are searching for yours. She tries to speak while still laughing.
Of course you believed it. You look like a little Star Trekkie or whatever those dummies are called. Because my brethren were fools and took too much, this is the first class of its kind. It's for rejects whose soul stuff we should have already consumed. You were beyond lucky that the earth was locked down right in the middle of your pathetic incarnation. If you're not the dumbest creature of all time, you're the luckiest. The way the earthly plane works, malleable at the quantum level, the real souls believed in the lies as we described them to them, and lies actually started to take shape. The only thing with too much power to be affected was the eclipse, so we crafted our lie around it, and all of space as you know it followed. This is what creepy little golems like Elon Musk are for, to get people to believe and manifest a potential way out for us. Our rockets were traveling out farther and farther as the collective consciousness built the fantasy for us. You fools were crafting our reality and our realm, following our plan to a T. When that fraud Neil Armstrong said he walked on what we said was a rock, it was over for you and the rest of the sweetmeats. We had, for the most part, won. Our arrogance regarding what we could do was now at an all-time high and obscene level. I tried, but I could not keep my sisters in check. Think about this. I was the reasonable one of the bunch. With our feeling and sensation of absolute power being fed, we degraded and relentlessly destroyed your connection to the divine, and as a result, we manufactured billions and billions of golems. As you know, they're still down there right now, believing they're living normal lives, sitting in traffic and worrying about paying bills. Once we flipped the switch and brought digital technology to life, very few souls passed what you call the life test and escaped through the filter. We even made our corporate egregores legally people as they developed a primitive sentience. Your Council of Masters scoured the contract, claiming we were overstepping and greedy. Of course, they were exactly right. What did those fools expect? You can't unleash an evil and then hope to later put it back in the lamp. Place a great white shark in a crowded kiddie pool and then politely tell it not to bite anyone. Can you imagine the power we had with such a massive surplus of life energy provided by real souls like yourself? We mocked those like you who incarnated.
She looks at you strangely, almost like there's an expectation that you may actually comprehend the depths of what she's saying. Of course, you have no experience that could find common ground with her bloodlust. For a hag of over 49 million years old, this form was surprisingly attractive in the purple light and red hues. After absorbing such a one-sided lecture, you feel the need to defend yourself. You remember the time before your incarnation when you were far more powerful than the chastising witch standing before you. If you are to spend years together in this place, she must be convinced you are not her inferior. You will test her to see if she can be manipulated. For a spark of original creation still shines in you, an area where the hag is forever devoid. Yes, in congratulations of yourself and how you all had become masters of that universe, you're proving my point that it was not a fair test. You just admitted to me how you rigged it. You state freely that you overstepped. This is what I told my master. How then is my life test considered a failure if these facts are agreed upon by all parties? The contract was broken. You admitted it. You cannot say for sure I would have failed because my life was not allowed to continue to its terminus. If your ilk would have kept to the contract, I may have succeeded. Who knows? This is the very reason this place exists and the dilemma of my masters. You reluctantly look over at her to see if your false confidence is paying dividends.
You seem like you have an inkling to go back, tortured soul. Perhaps I can arrange it. The demon I know who was Pontius Pilate in life has the need for another bath maid. Time is irrelevant if you are sent back. You like both snails and oysters, don't you? Didn't you see the movie?
And then it howled with laughter, a joke seemingly meant to please itself. You will not test her again and are finally resigned to your fate in this place. It will take a long time. What other choice do you have? she continues.
You still wonder how you were deemed a failure. Honestly, you were one step away of being flushed down the abyss. You didn't do enough bad on Earth to be eligible to be considered a minion like our pets Henry Kissinger or Joseph Goebbels. I remind you, considering what just happened on Earth, there is nowhere lower than this particular place. Perhaps if you would have just admitted your failure honestly, you wouldn't have had to start at the lowest of levels, which is a makeshift hell that I will work to reconfigure over time to make even worse. You were actually one of the lucky ones who were given gifts. You were actually down there on Earth, incarnating, inhabiting the realm at the moment you souls started to get the extraordinary help and assistance that the contract violations demanded after the first judgment was passed against us. The realm didn't jump from us taking too large a bite to being locked down overnight, you know. Over many decades of time, we were forced to start leaving you fools ridiculous and obvious clues so some of you could finally succeed.
There was a judgment that said you had to leave us clues? What clues? What are you talking about?
Oh my, you still don't know. Are you spirit again, or are you not? Clues pointing to the fact that the whole earthly realm isn't even real, you toad? Clues that shouted at you for your entire life that you were living inside of a cartoon, and a bad one at that? As a fish in a tank, you all thought the pirate's chest with the blowing bubbles was completely normal and real. The few souls around you saying it wasn't very real were deemed mad. What did you fools call them?
Oh yeah, we called them conspiracy theorists.
Yes, that's it. We were forced to leave inflated tires at a scene that obliterated millions of tons of steel and concrete, and no one noticed, other than the few. What if we had left you unbroken eggs at that scene? Would that have been good enough? We showed you parents laughing the very next day. We gave the Nobel Peace Prize to a president who did absolutely nothing and then broke all his promises about peace. How much time do you have, little toad? I can recite all 389,000 clues we were forced to give you. Would you like to extend your stay here by 20 years while I go through them all? These sorts of clues should have easily been recognized during your incarnation, should have told you about the nature of the environment in which you were, quote, living. You ignored them all, but that's okay. Misery loves company. You all, except for a very few, ignored them all.
She looks up at you slowly and stares, not into your eyes, but through you, where your heart used to be.
I can see there's not much left of you. I suggest you do more listening and less talking.
I understand. I won't challenge you again.
Nothing that we were forced to do to put things back in your favor seemed like it was ever enough. We were visited by an envoy of your masters, and we were actually told to make our presentations bad on purpose, so some of you would actually notice, so some of you may actually change what you were doing down here. The clown show we were forced to present you people was actually believed by the masses. We looked around at each other. We had done too good of a job removing your divine insight over time. At this point, our survival was threatened because of the contract violations. We actually wanted more of you to succeed, if you can believe that. For our own survival, we had to craft mass events where the people harmed would give fun and cheery interviews. That didn't work. Nothing was working. Desperate to restore any sort of balance, we actually had to craft a scenario where that minion that I mentioned earlier, Elon Musk, launched a red sports car, we told the masses, into space with real inflated tires and a proverbial dummy in the front seat. It wasn't enough. One of us in the meeting prior to the event suggested we do it without the rocket ship. Someone in the meeting prior to the event suggested we launch the car into space, but instead from a Barnum and Bailey cannon. one that was used in 1920 to launch a clown into a net across 3 rings. Of course, we regretted not going with that suggestion.
I guess you're saying that car was never really sent to Mars, then?
Oh my, here we go again. Call your master back in here. I'm in the midst of genius. There's nothing I can teach someone as enlightened as yourself. You can now graduate. Of course, the Red Roadster isn't in a billion-year orbit around Mars, you idiot. We were, once again, forced to revise our tactics to satisfy new contractual amendments, to now put comedic elements into all events, into everything we did. And amazingly, time after time, we were shocked to see nobody but a tiny few were noticing. Nothing we were forced to do mattered. Again, we were visited by the old ones, your same masters. We appealed for more time, for our own survival. We said, what do you want us to do? What more can we do? We were put on earth by your masters to play this role. Is it our fault if we played that role too well, too efficiently, too effectively? More contract violations were imposed on what we, the Wardens, were trying to do. Truth wasn't even hidden anymore. The word occult and esoteric had completely lost their meaning. We even sent a congressman in front of a House committee who asked if the island of Guam would sink if more soldiers were stationed there. He didn't really believe that. He was forced to say it. People made excuses and said politicians are dumb. There's nothing strange going on in this reality, whatever the people were called, conspiracy theorists. Our masters called your monitors and said, what more can we do? If these newer multiverse souls are this pathetic, let them go to the abyss. You drowned them all in a flood before, so do it again. Give us a new batch, a new contract, and we'll start this entire thing over again. We embedded the lessons the realm was supposed to teach into thousands of movies, TV shows, other forms of art and media, song. We artificially carried pathetic nursery rhymes through time to teach lessons. From Strawberry Fields' Nothing Is Real to one-hit wonders like Break Out. The band The Police simply told you dummies outright that you are spirits in the material world. When a population became dude dumb for esoteric messages like those in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, we made it blatant. We put blatant truth in idiotic movie presentations like Jupiter Ascending, which literally shows a race of Wardens feeding off the life stuff of earthly souls with reptilian guards. Our need to survive overcame our greed. We knew if the balance became any more skewed, the contract would terminate and the entire realm would be locked down. Again, at this point, we wanted you souls to succeed. We put fake into everything, and the souls left on Earth were too far gone to see it. In desperation, we put all our chips on one number. They must be meant to see that the experience itself is not real. We went big. We had to upset the nature of reality itself. We pulled forth every bit of sorcery that we could muster in a single day to break down the laws of physics on the realm, so reality could become absurdly fluid. This is what the ritual in 2001 was for. We didn't know how far-reaching what we did on that day would be, but something was unleashed on reality itself. A ripple was sent out that slowly eroded the predictability of space and time. History was rewritten in favor of the ridiculous. There was no date of change. The past had been overwritten. One day living souls woke up, and the North had lost 3,000 soldiers at Gettysburg, 20,000 less than what many people remember. We made evil North Korean dictators fat, jolly fellows like Santa Claus who loved Dennis Rodman, where at one time dictators in the past were made to look menacing. We released movies like Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, where those words were never uttered in 30 years. Maps popped up basically overnight, showing an entire empire that didn't exist in anyone's past, called Tartaria. We inserted ancient architecture and megaliths that can't be explained or replicated with modern equipment. Movies changed and continents shifted, for in reality constructs, one is no more significant than another. All politicians of note carried scandal of some kind, and people believe that to be normal. That every time someone runs for office, there must be an appropriate scandal that follows them along. Occupying many countries for 20 years was meant to seem perfectly normal and acceptable after the actions of just a few people. How much more would you like me to list? Like I said earlier, how many decades do you have, little soul?
There is no need, ma'am. From this perspective, I can see the clues that were given to me and all of us. Clues I completely ignored, as did most others.
The realization of what has happened finally sinks in. If you could only go back to Earth and do things the right way, as those listening to this have the opportunity to do now. It was all a script, all being laid down for my benefit. And how many will say, I never saw it? Very few see it, but we do. Thanks for listening.